Hi there. I'm Dr. Myrdalis Diaz-Ramirez, and this is the Design Your Physician Life podcast. Welcome to this episode brought to you by our Maxillary Mastermind, a personal and professional development program for physicians who want to learn about entrepreneurship. Today, we're going to be talking to a very special guest who's also a part to some extent of our companies. This is Phyllis Song, and we're going to be discussing how to maximize your freedom with a virtual assistant. Are you ready? Let's go.
Welcome to the Design Your Physician Life podcast, where you will get excited about being a physician, learn the tools that can help boost your success, and great tips from successful doctors. Join us to unlock the keys to an amazing physician life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Myrdalis Diaz-Ramirez.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Design Your Physician Life podcast. I'm extremely excited today because we have Phyllis Song, and she is a mother, a business owner. She calls herself a nerd and a master of leveraging virtual assistants to elevate her business in personal and professional ways. And that's what she's done for us. We are clients of hers. We've been clients for 1 year, so disclosure there. We're here because we've had the wonderful experience of her expertise and her company with a wonderful set of virtual assistants. And I know that we get many questions many times. When do I hire a virtual assistant? How can I have them work with me? And all these questions we hope to answer for you today. So welcome to our program, Phyllis.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really, really love to help business owners, right, to create the ultimate freedom. And once upon a time, I am stressed and I have limited budget and I just don't know who to trust. And, I have been using virtual assistant for the past 12 years. Now I think 14 years. And now, my passion is to help other business owners, to create the ultimate freedom so that ultimately, they can do it all without doing it all by using VAs. And, our goal is to train your virtual assistant to become a virtual partner so that they can think for you, create system for you, and protect you at the same time. So,
well, let me tell people here how we met you and how we got to you, because it was like a hush hush. We were like a secret. You can only get to you through recommendations. It's like, oh my goodness. Well, and we got in. So we got through it. We belong to a group, call it like a type of a mastermind for physicians entrepreneurs. And we were talking about how we could get help for our business, our virtual business, and which is our Maxillary Mastermind for physicians who want to learn entrepreneurship. And they said, well, try this one. We saw their presentation. It was really great. And so we did. And at that time, I was in a situation where the employees I was perceived as not being valued. And when I talked to your assistants, it was like a complete game changer. The way that you guys treat your virtual assistants was such a different way. I call it like the Monsters, Inc. effect, right? If you've seen that movie, Monsters, Inc., then you know that at the beginning, I'm sorry if you haven't seen the movie, but this is a big, reveal of the movie. Basically, they scare everybody and they produce so much energy. But then they find out that at the end, if you make people happy, you get so much more energy. And that's what you guys do for your virtual assistants. Tell me about, and we've experienced it. We've had a virtual assistant with you for over a year now. It's been an amazing experience. We've learned from them. We've learned with you. You have a mastermind for your entrepreneurs as well, so that they can optimize those services. And we're going to go over all those things in detail. So tell me about the time when you did not have a virtual assistant in your life, right? And then what happened that that first time that you worked with a virtual assistant?
yeah, absolutely. And, that is many, many moons ago. When I first started, just like most entrepreneur, I feel like I am the only one that can do it all. I can't trust anybody, right? I need to learn the course. I need to do the work. And, after a while, and the business grew bigger and bigger and bigger. And after a while, I just felt like, man, I don't have enough time. And then I started to drop the ball, right? And something that was so exciting for me, which is running a business, it became really stressful for me. because, I just started to miss stuff. I just started to forget stuff. And then I started to hire local employees. And I do like local employees, don't get me wrong, but based on local employees, they are more expensive. So I remember I used to be like, hey, can you eat a little bit faster, talk a little bit faster so you can do a little bit more, right? And I think that the mindset of a local employees at that time, when I was hiring, um, just wasn't as good as how much money I could hire them for, right? That the quality I want, it's out of my budget. Let's put it that way. And one day, I actually lost my credit card, and I called into a credit card company, and I recognized that they have some accent. And I come to realization that they are using foreign worker. And I Googled it and I figured it out. And I found out the way that they hired. So I mimicked the way that if a big company can do it, I can do it too. And as soon as I start working with virtual assistant, I just fall in love with it because they are kind of like a yes, ma'am, yes, boss kind of deal. Like, hey, I will need you to do this. Okay, boss, what else can I do for you? And then if they don't know something, I just tell them and I give them some resources and they would just go learn for me. And I also learned that, their English is really good because at the very beginning, I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe the English is not as good. And I found out that the English is actually better than me. And most of them are college degree graduates. So they obviously have a really good, mature brain that, as long as I know how to fit the right person for the right position, then everything, just works so much smoother for me. And with the money that I paid, I can technically hire 3 people for the price of 1 in United States. So now I live, Tim Ferriss talked about this called the new millennium mindset, which is, I can spend little money but have more employees so that instead of having only 40 hours, I have 120 hours. So now I live in abundance, right? What else can I get them to do? And how can I scale my business? And ever since then, life just got so much more better. And I just feel like I got so much more time in my hand and I can start with a lot of different other projects and just play around with it. And I don't, and even better with that is that I can have 3 people and each focusing on one thing instead of hiring one person and that person have to focus on 3 things and stressing them out, right? And that is like the new freedom that I found through virtual assistant.
Well, for us, it was very similar. We've been able to do, for example, we have the current virtual assistant we have with you has been amazing at developing our social media. And just speaking that part of the social media, it has brought us so much interaction with our client, right? Our avatar, which is that physician who's really overwhelmed, who is in the early stages of their entrepreneurship career. And it's been amazing because we were doing a lot of that work. And not only that, it increases your quality of the work that you're doing, even from what you were doing before. Because what we're hiring right now is not only somebody you're gonna teach them what you know, they're gonna come with some expertise, extra expertise from you, from what you had. And if you treat them well, it really can be, they're not an extension of your company, they are your company. You treat them as your employees the same way that you would treat somebody that you have in our office right there. And when I saw you guys, one of the things that struck me that was so, so important to me was the way that you train and that was just for the presentation. From the presentation of how the way that you train your VAs, our VAs, right, was way different than what we've seen any training for many companies here, local companies. But not only that, then we went through the process of being with you, and we saw the hiring process, and the hiring process is like amazing. You don't only go for, okay, these are the things that you need in your company, and that's all okay, but you're trying to build a great culture for those entrepreneurs. And you start with even the DISC assessment for everybody. So tell us about that process. When I'm hiring somebody, and I come to you, what do you tell people they can expect when hiring somebody for their companies?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, for my background experience, I was actually a recruiter for AT&T, and I grew from a 5-man office to 300-man office. So I noticed that personality matching is very important. And afterwards, when I'm working with clients, I realized that there's two type of client, right? There's client that is looking for people that is just like them, so they can enhance their superpower, or they want to hire somebody that can complete them so that they can do what they are not good at. And based on that model, that's what we started with, right? We always ask, are you organized or not organized? And usually, when entrepreneurs come in and have a discovery call with us, we kind of ask them, what are some of the tasks that you want them to do? What are the gaps that you want us to close? What are the problems you want us to solve? And by you telling us that, we know kind of like, are you looking for somebody to enhance you or somebody that completes you? So for example, I'm a business owner. I love talking to people. Chances is I usually are weak on organization. And a lot of time, business owner will be like, well, let me wait till I get organized, then I'll hire somebody. And I will tell them, you will never get organized, because what your strength is, you love to talk to people and build that relationship. So, but if you want to get organized, then hire somebody who is a C personality, right? And this C personality is usually organized, and they are straight to the point, and they're very detail oriented. So they could complete you, but they're not gonna be the one that is like, get you excited, like, yeah, let's go, like, Bob, let's go. They are just very low, mellow people, but they get things done because they're the polar opposite of you. So what we do during the interview process is that, we're very good at integrating people and finding your soulmate, which means that, we'll find the right partner. Like, we really take the word partner seriously and say, okay, what do you really need? And it will find that for you. And our interview process have 4 steps, right? We look for people that have grit, because we find that, people have grit, they have growth mindset, they will solve problems, right? Again, going back to mindset. We do the DISC personality and multiple personality profile type, just to double, triple check that this is really the person that you're looking for. Because C personality cannot do sales. So don't expect them to do sales for you, because they're going to quit, right? Because C personality is quiet, organized. Accountant are usually C personality. If you want to look for like customer service representative, build relationship, then they are usually I personality. If you want them to start a project, they're usually D personality. And most of my clients, they are actually D, because they're business owner. They want fast. They are not really into detail. So we are very good at finding the C people or the S people that can run the work for them and ask them detailed question that most business owners hate answer. Boss, what do you really mean by this? I was like, you just figured it out. No, boss, I really need an answer for you. And that helped us create a system for a company. Because a lot of time we just go by the flow, there's really not a system, and when you have a C person coming in, they create a system for you, which is what we love. And then last but not least is, obviously have the final interview with you, because for me, I know skill set is very important, but you can find a lot of skill set training on YouTube and things like that. However, the energy that you match up with your VA is very important, because if the energy level match, right, the personality, match with the expectation, then this is it's partners, soulmate, and and that is the lifelong relationship that we're trying to build and pair up.
So one thing people talk a lot about these days is employee retention, and how to find, like, the employee pool is so low right now. So how would you have time to match somebody to any personality? Just do this, if you do this thing, your pool of employees that you're doing locally right now is very, very low. In this case, if you identify in your company things that can be done virtually, the benefits a huge advantage is that in your case, you can pull from a huge population, and then you have the time, you can have the luxury of time to then interview them, and you go through these funnels where you have a huge group of people who have applied for this position. Because what happens is that by us being able to hire from somewhere else, in this case is the Philippines, we are able to hire more people for the price from here. But for them, we're giving them a better lifestyle. So they're making salaries that are higher than the local opportunities. So it's a win-win situation. And by doing that, then you have a much bigger pool of people. And then you can have and take the time to go through all these funnels of interviews and then match somebody according to your personality and the needs of your business, which is wonderful. And it's a really a great advantage. And not only that, like if you have somebody who, you think you match through the process, and it at the end is not really a good match, there's always a chance to get somebody to help you, and then it's very quick, right?
Yes, absolutely. Based on all the interview processes that we have done so far, sometimes they might appear to be really good on interview, but then when they're really working with you, it just doesn't turn out to be well. So, for our company, we actually have, allow client to have unlimited replacement. So if it doesn't work out, we always talk about this with my company is if there's a but, it doesn't work out. Most of our entrepreneurs, I love them to death because they're so nice. So they have a hard time letting people go. So we always tell them, it's not that we're trying to be harsh, right? But if there is a but and they cannot take care of you, then you cannot take care of your client and you cannot impact the world. So we want you to take care of yourself first. And if the VA are really good, we promise you that we will transfer them to another client that will match it up. And just like what you said at the very beginning, our community is so good. We really care about the VA's welfare. So we created like a raving fan VAs, right? A lot of virtual assistants wanted to just stay in the community because they felt love, they felt seen, they felt care. And the good news is that we actually got a lot of referrals nowadays coming into our community just by the word of mouth that, hey, this community is different, right? They don't, they take care of the VA really well. They train us how to love ourselves. They train us to have better, communication. And the truth too is that common sense is really not so common. I personally come from Malaysia. I travel the world. And even me and my husband, we have been together for 18 years. Sometimes common sense for me is not common sense to him. And that's where I help, close the gap on teaching the VA some common sense. Because as an entrepreneur, we tend to, live on the edge of the box and outside the box, not necessarily in the box, but people from Philippines or an employee mindset, they actually are live in the box. And sometimes the glitches is that, hey, I want you to solve the problem. I want you to think outside the box. What else can we do? But for them, it's like, hey, I am getting paid by not asking any question, by following rules. And now you're telling me to think outside the box? That's just different. And I think that is where, our special sauce come into play, which is I understand as a business owner, I need them to run and go and model after success and not think like an employees. And at the same time, on the employee side, and the entrepreneur side, we also tell them to, hey, you need to understand, they are not from our culture, not from our background. And, you need to have, you need to really educate them and embrace the I don't know what I don't know. Because when they say they don't know, they really mean that they don't know. And, but again, that is what our special sauce is, to really close the gap between entrepreneur and the VAs. And then as soon as we get them locked up, right, and understand each other, then, we just kind of grow exponentially.
So these things that you mentioned are very important, that are not only about the VA, but just designing for any company and a culture. And you talked about cultural differences from country to country, but even within the company, the reason why we really have a great connection with yours is because of the way that you're building the culture, not only for your company, but also for each company independently. And what we've experienced is that these VAs, these virtual assistants, they're going to be, usually as a virtual assistant, it can be a very lonely job. They work in the hours where everybody else is sleeping, because in this case, we're 12 hours, ahead, separate. So that can be a very challenging thing for them. In this case, they remain connected to a community. They remain connected to a community of virtual assistants where they can get help, they can get training, not only training in the areas that they work at, but they get training on mindset, which we're going to go on detail in a second. And then also for us as a company, it's very important to be aware, if we want to get employee retention, we have to care for that VA, which having these other perks that we have through you help us with that. But as an entrepreneur, hopefully we've been matched to somebody wonderful and we have wonderful things for them to do so that they're challenged and they're not bored and they don't feel overwhelmed and all these things happen. But also we have to take care of them. And one of the things that we've done is model about after that, having the regular meetings where we have that regular connection with our VA, making sure, as I said, that they're really feeling part of this company. They're not somebody who's in an obscure basement somewhere in the other side of the world. They are really part of our company. And that starts from the moment that, you start looking from them, making sure that they're going to be a good match, the training that you're going to give them, the support that you're going to give them, because you're a client of them as much as they're a client of yours within your company, and you have to reciprocate in that way. Tell us about, one is that training that you give them about mindset, which is a constant training that starts from the beginning, from the orientation. And first, about the inspiration for you to do that, because not everybody does that. This is very unique. And second, what does the virtual VA, the virtual assistant, goes through their career with you for their mindset training?
Yeah. So, I grew up in Malaysia, and before I met Tony, what happened is that I almost got into a divorce, and I thought that if anybody can fix...
Tony is Tony Robbins we're talking about.
Yeah, Tony Robbins. Yeah, Tony Robbins. Yeah, the transformational coach, right? That's what we call him, even though maybe that's not what he liked to describe himself. I realized that, during that time, I always focusing on skill set right before Tony. I know that I'm an entrepreneur. I'm trying to figure things out. I was doing pretty okay, but it wasn't like where I am today until I met Tony, because I thought, if anybody can fix my husband, it will be him, right? Who knows that I need fixing? And then after we attend UPW, and I really realized that, I was sleepwalking, and mindset was really important. And just like what Tony always say, if you believe you can, or you believe you cannot, you're both right. And that's where I started to realize even more and more that it wasn't the skill set that bring me further along. It was my mindset. And at the very beginning, I just keep thinking that I can't do it. And thus I never did. I never even tried, right? One thing that Tony Robbins talk about is the thermostat, right? When you get into a certain comfortable, temperature, you were good. And then as soon as you wanted to expand yourself, sometimes you just like, no, that's too hot or too cold. I can't do that. And I relate that with my virtual assistant, because I always ask myself, why are those VAs stay with me so long? Why are they always so loyal to me compared to my other friends that are using VAs, right? And there must be something that I was doing right that I wasn't aware of. And I start asking myself this question and helping my friends hire VA at that moment. I wasn't having this business at that moment, and I realized that it was the mindset, because every time I learned something, I love to share with my VAs. And the more that I share with my VAs, because I want them to be as close as I am, right? Because if I run 100 miles an hour and they're only running 20 miles an hour, we're technically only at about 40 miles an hour. We weren't running at 100 miles, because everything that I do, I need to delegate to them for them to run. And then when I started to notice that I get them into all the leadership training, right? All the common sense training, all the communication training. We get better with communicating with each other. And I also learned that I got better with telling them how I truly feel. I think that one thing with entrepreneur, or the virtual assistant, right, is that we tend to be really nice and we want them to quote unquote read our mind. And that is not a skill that anybody knows. And how I know about this is that, just a quick story. My husband used to buy me flowers. And every time he bought me flowers, I hated it. And when he doesn't buy me flower, I hated it too. Right. And we went to a John Gray class. And what I found out is that he loved to buy me flower. One of the flowers, daisy. Okay. In America, daisy means deep friendship. But in Asia, daisy is for the death. So every time he bought me flowers, I was like, dude, like, are you wishing me to go somewhere that I wasn't expecting, then I realized, oh, it's all about communication, right? But then communication come with confidence. You have to be you need to be confident to communicate with your clients. So when I first started training my VAs, the very first line I trained them that I created is called "Shyness does not make you money." Shyness does not make you money, because Filipino always say, "Oh, boss, I'm kind of shy. I don't want to ask you a question because I am technically afraid or not confident that I'm gonna screw it up. It might be a stupid question or anything like that." And most of the time, the reason why the relationship didn't work out is because we did not build the trust, and they did not ask me enough questions. And ultimately, going back to it, is because they have weak mindset, or they don't think they can ask me that question, and that's the relationship crumble, and they didn't grow to the point that they need to grow. So I know that first thing first is I need to build their confidence, because that's where I was. And then after I build that confidence, I need to build them with communication. How can you better communicate with me? And at the same time, also receiving. And one thing that I train them on is feedback is love, right? Because, I always tell them, did you notice that, you only give feedback to your own children and not the next door neighbor, John's kid, because you don't care about them as much, right? So you're not going to give them feedback. But if you love your kids, or if you have one kid that is just super smart, you will give them tougher feedback because you know they can take it. And then my view is like, oh, now it makes sense. If my boss is hard on me, it's because they see that I can do it. I say yes, because if they don't give you feedback, just be aware in the next couple months, they most likely will fire you because they think that it's a waste of time now to give you feedback to grow you. Then okay, that makes sense. So again, I'm growing them on mindset, and again, growing them on common sense, because a lot of time we just always think that feedback is just negative. But the truth is, I learned this from my mom, right? My mom is always hard on me. It's because she loves me so much. And now I explain that to the VA, then now they understand more. And another piece too is, like, as an entrepreneur, we're always busy. And sometimes we don't smile, that we just forget to build that relationship, because we have built relationship with all these clients that we have already. So when we quote unquote come home to our home office, we just want to be us. I don't want to have to build that relationship with you anymore. And so I tell them, if I'm not smiling, is because I'm in deep thoughts, or I'm just so busy working. So don't take it personal. And if I don't like you, trust me, I will stop paying you. I will fire you. So if I didn't fire you, that means I really loves you. So, don't worry about me being, not happy with you. I'm just being me at this moment without have to please another client, because I'm with you. And they're like, okay, now it makes sense, boss. And then the relationship just building based on that. So whenever I train them, I always lay the basic foundation first for them to understand how entrepreneur work first. It also lift off the stress that I have, because I don't want to be a people pleaser, even on my VAs, right? So that I can be myself. And then one bigger piece that I always tell them too is, tell my entrepreneurs too, is that if you feel something negative, and quote unquote, with Tony word is like, this might be a hallucination. So you want to clarify the hallucination instead of building it up. So I always say, hey, I feel that you are not 100% with me at this moment. What is going on? Is that true, or is it not true, right? And then the VA will tell me, oh, boss, that's not true. I just have some family issue, or that's not true. Maybe I just didn't sleep well. Or, boss, I'm just maybe a little bit quiet today, but there's nothing wrong. And then we will clear out the miscommunication so much faster, and thus, trust build faster, and thus relationship build faster. And then we scale the business a whole lot faster and quicker too. Sorry, that might be a long answer.
Well, actually, it's so that people understand the details that you go through to really secure, as I said, a great culture and employee retention. And these are the things that you can get. And as an entrepreneur, many times, as you say, like, we're busy, we have so many things to do, and having a company that helps you with this side of the equation really is helpful. In our case, what we've seen is that from the time that our virtual assistants were interviewed, all this importance on the having that communication, making sure that it's going to be a good fit for the company, and then training them. So at the beginning, they will go through a training where part of the day is really dedicated to that mindset training, to explaining to them these things that are basic, that are going to help with the cultural barriers from one country to the country, and then building a culture of safety within your company itself. And not only we have access to that training that happens at the beginning, there's ongoing training through their careers with us, and they feel that sense of connection. And that training is also available for the entrepreneurs in your company, where you have a group of entrepreneurs that happens regularly, where you train also the entrepreneurs on mindset themselves, and also on how to take advantage of their VAs. Before we go more in depth about that, a huge question that we get is, when do I hire a VA? How do I know? What can they help me with? What would you tell the entrepreneur who's looking, for help, how to make a list of these items that they need help with, and then finally get what's the trigger to hire a VA?
Yeah, absolutely. This is what I always tell, the entrepreneur in my community, right? If you are aiming to make $1 million and only work 40 hours a week, that means that you worth $500 an hour. So when is now a good time to hire somebody? Because checking, so we always ask, does checking email make you at least $500 an hour, right? Is doing social media make you at least $500 an hour? Getting organized, is that going to make you $500 an hour? If the answer is no, then when is now a good time to hire. And people always ask me too, but Phyllis, let me build my momentum first, and then I will hire. Then my question is, building momentum usually are the hardest part. Kind of like losing weight, right? The first few weeks are usually the toughest. So, hiring a VA will allow you to double your time, right? At least you gain another 40 hours, and you can use all these 40 hours to do things that either trial and error, starting a new way of marketing, right? Contacting all your customer to ask them for testimonials, asking them for more referrals, right? Making sure that all your contracts, all your documents is well organized and putting into the database, right? I personally think that, as soon as you start a business, you should hire an assistant, or at least a virtual assistant, to help you do things that you do not like to do, or, things that does not make you money. When, before this business, I was a real estate agent. And again, my VA, Monique, has been with me for 10 years, right? So when we first started real estate, I immediately say, I'm going to focus on getting customer, open houses, right? And whatever that I need to physically appear. And she immediately go into learning the CRM, the processes, how to list home, how to write the contract. So I was the number one real estate agent, rookie realtor with Keller Williams, because immediately I built that momentum. I don't have to worry about the CRM. I don't have to worry about the listing. I don't have to worry about, all the paperwork, and that saved me a whole lot of time. So I actually run a lot faster compared to everybody else. Again, I work with a lot of physicians too, dentists, chiropractor, doctors. And one thing that we all know is that, I used to intern at a hospital too, is that physicians are very good at what they do, right? But a lot of times they might not be good at technology, right? Softwares, and VAs are great at those things, right? So then you can just get them in and say, hey, figure out this website, this software for me, do this thing. I even actually recently, I just went to my kids' optometrist, and they actually have a VA, and the lady just put an AirPod on her phone, on her ear, and say, okay, this kid need this, that, whatever. And then the VA actually was entering all the stuff into the database. So then she doesn't have to retype it. So she can focus on talking to me while the VA is actually entering all the information into database. And I was like, man, she is smart to use a VA and leverage a VA, because as soon as she finishes a patient, she move on to the next patient, because all the details is already in the system and entering by the VAs. So that is my suggestion. If you want to build momentum, if you don't want to deal with what you hate to do, right? If you want to have more time for your family, that is when you should get it. And the right answer is, now is a good time. When's the best time to be a tree? 20 years ago. When is the next best time? Now.
That's what I say. That's been our experience. It's people might want to feel inclined to call it an expense. And if you see just money by money, it's an expense. It's really an investment. It's an investment for your time and for your business,
Yes.
for all the way around. And if you have somebody who teaches them in all these other things, it's just a wonderful thing because you're also learning from them. Let's talk about the relationship then that you have with your entrepreneurs, right? You have these groups that happen once a week. What sort of things are entrepreneurs learning in those meetings that they don't normally, or that they would not normally learn somewhere else?
Yeah. So right now I'm focusing on four things. One is freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of relationship, and freedom of purpose. So depending on what stages the entrepreneur is looking for. And for freedom of time, I am teaching them, sharing with them the possibility of what VA can do what for them. How can they gain more time back? Like for me, I even use VA to tutor my children. Right, I use my VA to tutor my children. I use my VA to. I have some clients that use the VA to hire a chef. Reminding them to drink water. Right. So in the classes, I train them on how to get their time back. In some of the classes, I also training them how to get their money back, which is like social media, right? How to do better sales. How do you create a better, Zoom meeting, Calendly accounts? How can you scale your business? How can you do organic outreach with your business so that you can get your time back? Sometime I will also, since I'm a big Tony Robbins fans, right? One thing that I learned too is that I need to have a balanced life, right? Not work all the time. And what is freedom for us? So a lot of time I will also get into mindset training. Where your focus go, your energy flow. What is a good foundation for for an entrepreneur? Because I used to get nervous all the time. I used to be not flexible at all. Every day, if that one thing goes wrong, my whole day will go down, right? And that created a barrier for me to grow my business, because the bigger the business is, the more problems you're going to have. So how can you build that muscle to get to that part, right? And then obviously the freedom of purpose, what are you really here to do? And again, this is obviously much more deeper conversation, because I recently went to India too, and one thing that I realized is, one thing that the coach was saying is that we all thinking that if we get the first million and then get the third million, the 10 million, the 100 million, then we will be happier. But the truth is we need to work inside ourselves. If not, we will be like running really fast, but we didn't realize that 30 years later, we're actually running on a treadmill. So we're actually
you're gonna
not
be
going
just
anywhere.
a richer person, an unhappy richer person, right? That's what you're gonna be.
Yeah, exactly. So that is what I'm focusing on. And so far, the business owners, entrepreneurs really like it, because I'm not just teaching them about the VAs and leveraging the VAs. I'm looking for how can we live a full life and to get the ultimate freedom, so that you can do what you want, when you want, with who you want, and constantly have the best state and happy state, all the time, fulfill life.
So people might want to ask, hey, why do you go through all that trouble of doing this thing? Why, you can just have VAs and then just hire them and put them here and put them there. And why do you have to do this thing with the owners and all this trouble of teaching everybody so many things about mindset?
I think that is just my passion, because, being an entrepreneur for 20 years, the first 15 years, I was kind of miserable. I wasn't happy. I thought I would be happier when I was entrepreneur. And I realized that I just wasn't. And then I think the second thing too is that I worked really hard. Like, I remember I worked like 80 to 120 hours a week. If there's 120 hours in a week, I know there's. And now I just realized that, we were, when we got into entrepreneurship, we want the freedom. But the truth is, if we're not doing this the right way, we actually lose our freedom. And I just wanted to inspire all the entrepreneurs to really know what they really want and what they don't want, so that they can live a happy life. And the truth too is that I grew up with busy parents. So I never see my parents around. So I want the entrepreneur to be able to really run a business successfully with virtual assistant so that they can really have the time to spend time with their kids. Because I was one of the kids that always wish that my mom and dad are home and my mom and dad are present and my mom and dad are happy. And I think because of all that, my mission and passion really is not about making the money and how many VAs, I obviously want to have as many VAs as possible, but I just have this, I don't know, like this calling that I want people to be free and I want people to be happy constantly and work, work hard is for sure, but definitely work smart, because working smarter will bring you further than working harder. So, but that's my passion, whether conveniently or not, I just can't help myself to do that.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I'm glad to be able to be, part of that passion. We are as a company, it's been really great for us. Can you tell us about the feedback you get from your virtual assistants and the retention? What have they told you that's been things that are important to them in this whole process? How can we make them, how can we help them be successful in their work too?
Yeah. So, just like what I tell you, creating freedom, right? I really love that I'm helping the VAs because they can make good money, stay home and raise their children, because most VAs, in order for them to make the same amount of money, they have to go to Singapore, Dubai to work, on cruise ship. So they will not see their family for 7 months to like 2 years. Some of them is like 10 years. It was really surprising to me, just to make ends meet. So by me doing this thing, a lot of time I hear from them saying that, hey, Phyllis, through your program, I saw my PTSD. I forgive my parents. I learned how to love myself now. I know that, I am important and I deserve to be loved. And that's what I love about my community, to let them see the possibility. And on top of that, I also learned that in the Filipino work culture, it's very unhealthy. So that's why they love our community, because then they will tell me, hey, thank you so much for bringing, my dream client, because they treat me like a human being. They treat me like a family. They treat me like a partner. So now I know my self-worth, and I am just so into growing together with them so that we can scale our business together, right? And learn and grow together. And that really fills my heart and really let me know that I am doing the right thing, for my business owner and my virtual assistant, because I always hit for the win-win-win, the win for the VA, the win for the business owner, and ultimately the win for me, because ultimately I am relive my life through the business owner, which is, having more time, right? And also relive my childhood for the VA, because now the VA are staying home for their kids so that the kids will grow up with parents instead of without parents.
Our VA right now is going to have a third baby, and she's been able to be with their kids and everything through the last year. So we saw the second one being born. We're going to see hopefully the third one being born. And, it's really part of our family. And it's been nothing but a good experience for us. What sort of tips would you give entrepreneurs who really have not found that great relationship with their VA? When do you see, please let's change this VA. They're not going to be working in this position. Pretty sure that, if they find the right position, it's going to be great for them. But what would you tell the entrepreneur who's having a hard time letting go, because it's not working? It's keeping their business at a level that's not allowing them to advance, but they haven't been able to get, past that.
Yeah. The truth is I am a really good person. So I completely understand when it comes to that. In the past, I have a hard time letting people go. And I just hold on to them, right? And then it created a lot of stress for me and my organization, and at the end, the VA, because I will start building up and they can see my reaction that I don't really like them, but I'm forcing myself to work with them. So it did not serve anybody. So what I would suggest is that honor yourself, take good care of yourself first as an entrepreneur, because you work hard, you deserve to be taken care of, because ultimately you're paying for a service. So you should be expecting the service to come back. So I would say if there's a but, right? Like, man, I love this person, but whatever, that is telling you that you need to let them go. And then when you let them go, always evaluate, right? What didn't go well? What go well? What didn't go well? What is something that I need to tweak, right? Is it because I was actually looking for somebody just like me, but I got somebody that completes me, so they're not in sync with energy level? Is it because I didn't speak out, and speak up and say, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is something that I don't bargain, right? That's just black and white. There's not a lot of gray. Like for me, one of the big examples that I do is that I tell my VAs that I can be late, but you can't. Because if I'm late, I'm still paying you for it. But if you're late, you're wasting my time. So I have a very strict rule that nobody should be late for my meeting, right? And I always tell them too, and I pay you so that you can get the work done, right? I pay you so that I can get the work done. So if I didn't do the work done, it is your fault, VA, not my fault. I know that might be a little bit too strong, but I was like, that is the truth. You are my EA. You need to hold me accountable to make sure that I get things done. So I created some of the ground rules in this way. And so I always make sure that the VA also understand my ground rule before I, start the relationship. But what I wanted to say is that honor yourself, because you are not doing anybody a favor by working with them and they didn't work out, because ultimately, kind of like dating, like you date the first one, it didn't work out, the second one, the third one, when you become a soulmate, you know that is the person, because everything just worked, like all the stars just align. And it's okay for you to let the one that didn't work out go, because they, then it will be their turn to find the next soulmate, right? Because if you don't let them go, then you're just going to be miserable on both. So let them go so that they can have chances to meet with their soulmate, the next business owner that worked really well for them. And again, I can tell you many, many stories in our organization. There's many times that the clients I met, this VA suck. Like, excuse my language, this doesn't work out. It's worse, right? And then we have some standard, right? And if the VA is really hitting on the standard, then we will give them another chance to match with another VA, another client. And then, a few of them, come back, the client is like, oh my God, this VA is like the best that I ever had. Like, this is like my number one. I want you to find all the person that's just like her. But again, same VA, two different clients, two different outcomes, but same VA, they didn't change at all. But one VA is like, oh man, this person is just not working out. And then the other client's like, man, she is like the best thing that I have ever happened to me. So what I wanted to tell you is that if that VA doesn't work out, don't dwell on it. Let her go so they can find the next person. And time is the only thing that you cannot get back. So don't discount your life. Don't discount the VA. Don't discount yourself. If it doesn't work out, let them go and then find another one. And again, keep trying. The truth is, I actually at least tried a couple hundred of them, right? And then I found my system, I found my process, I found my communication style. I know that it works for everybody. I have successfully placed well over 1,500 VAs so far. So I know that, your soulmate, your soul, VA partners is there for you. You just have to continue looking for it until you figure it out. And again, if you need more help, we do have free consultation. So you can talk to us and figure out what works or what doesn't work. Again, I take care of people first, money second. And if I can help you, I will help you. And, whether you get a VA from me or not, that is not that important to me. But I know, usually people use us because we're just really caring and loving to them.
So besides having unrealistic expectations, we might want to define what an unrealistic expectation from a VA is. Which type of entrepreneur would really not benefit from having a VA in this case? Who would not be a good client to you? That you say, you know what, maybe it's best that you get somebody local to do this type of work. And it's not necessarily because it's a manual labor, something that you have to be in person.
Yeah.
Is there something that you have identified from the entrepreneurs, like, you know what, even from the beginning, I think that you're better with somebody local rather than the VA?
Yes, absolutely. I think go back to expectation. We do run into some entrepreneur that expected that we find another VA that is just like them. And I have to say, we are all very unique. You will never be able to find another person just like you. So anytime a client have an expectation, like I want them to read me, know me, do exactly what I do, um, we would know that will be a failed case, and we will immediately let them know that it's not possible. We cannot find another you, because if they are you, they wouldn't have worked as a VA. They will run their own business too. Am I right? So that is one thing that we know. And the second one usually is that they expect that I have a client that I sat down and talked to him, and after I sat down and talking to him, everything works well. But what he said is he was looking to replace his local employees. However, his local employee that he paid was $30 an hour, but he's expecting, his current VA to do the $30 an hour work. And again, it's just expectation, right? To a certain extent, you get paid, you get what you paid for. I know for a fact that you get more, compared with a virtual assistant. But just unrealistic expectation, whereby, if you really expect that the VA is like 80% of you, chances is you are just going to get into a failure. Usually VA, one thing that I know that's successful is you get them to do one or two tasks and then let them go deep. And it's something they can duplicate. Just kind of like you say social media, right? It's something that they can do constantly, systematically, and something that can be out of your hand. And I think that will always be a successful, VA that can work out. And I think last but not least is communication. There's a lot of clients that at the very beginning, they just really expect that the VA read their mind. And unfortunately, I don't even read my husband's mind, right? So that is usually like, another recipe for disaster. It's like, oh, they don't read my mind. Well, they only work with you for the first week, right? And I think that's sometimes the challenges too.
Well, I agree with you. I think we have to really care for our VAs, and they cannot read our mind. Nobody can. If you want somebody to know what's in your mind, you have to let them know. Precisely. So as we're nearing the end of our episode here, is there any particular tip or tips that you want to give anybody who's really looking for considering a virtual assistant for their business? And then also, how can they find you?
Yeah, I think that the tips, is to really get to know yourself, get to know what you want and what you don't want, and also know what are you willing to trade, right? Kind of like what Tim Ferriss was talking about at 4 Hours Work Week. He said that, if you expect a VA to be 100% of you, it will never be able to make it, right? But if you expect a VA to do so good of what you can do 25%, then you successfully gain another 25% of your life back. And if with that mindset, with that expectation, right, that this VA can only do 25% of me, but that is much better than, 0% of me. I think with that mindset, it definitely will help you scale your business. And then communication, constant communication is a key, right? Tell them what you like, what you don't like, as quick as possible, as precise as possible. And that also requires you to know yourself. And again, if you're like, man, I really don't know what I want, and let's play around with it, that's okay too. But again, it's always going back to the expectation. For you to, so I really think that just like what Tony said, business is a spiritual game. So, you want to, have fun with it. I think the last thing piece is have fun with it. Don't be so hard on yourself. Don't be so hard on your VAs, right? We are here to learn. We are here to grow. If there's no, what Tony always said, if you have no problem, you belong to the cemetery, right? So if you're constantly growing, if you're running a business, you're always going to have problems. So be excited about the problems, because that means that you're growing and you're learning something and your life is not boring. So celebrate that, right? For you to find us, it's very easy. Actually, my website it's Phyllis Song. It's PHYLLIS as in Sam, and then SONG like song. So phyllisSong.com, Phyllis. and then like singing a song. So PhyllisSong.com. And you can always schedule a free consultation call with us. And then we can tell you, and all you do is, you tell us what you wanted to solve, what are some of the choke of your business. And then we're going to tell you the plans, right? Whether you can, use our service or, you wanted to seek out, but we're always here to help you solve the problem so that you're one step closer to your goal, one step closer to the freedom that you ultimately want. I want everybody to take away this one more piece. In January, walking in thinking that 2023 is going to be a big year for me, right? We went to an indoor rock climbing place, and unfortunately, my husband did not get the harness secured, so he fell 35 feet down. And the next month and a half, my life was a mess, right? I was crying, there's just so much thing that was going on. One thing that I learned is that I can take on stress like nobody, because I'm entrepreneurs. Come on, we eat stress for breakfast, right? But then I realized that it was not a stress test, it was a blessed test, because I was so blessed that I had built a company with virtual assistant that I can trust and system that, can run without me in it. Because I always thought that I will always be there, right? But at that 1.5 months, I wasn't there. And we have a proven system now that, I am able to work on the business, not in the business. And I don't have to run my day-to-day business, and my business is still run itself. And I was not worried about anything at all. My VA just literally say, boss, just go handle your things. We got everything. And we actually have one of the best months ever without me running the whole thing. And I just want to encourage you, when is now a good time for you to get yourself away from your business so that you can live the life that you want, still have the impact that you have, still make the money that you make, and still have the relationship that you wanted to have. I know that virtual assistant is the way, right? At least that is the way for me. And I know that that's the way for many, many entrepreneurs out there. And we are here to support you and to grow you. And, anybody that you want me to talk to, even if it's just a mom, I would say get a virtual assistant, right? So that way, you can focus on building a relationship with your kids, building a relationship with your husband, and not paying bills, or doing things that, last week when you're on your deathbed, you would not remember, oh my God, yeah, hey, right, I pay my bills, those are the time that you don't really have to spend. So, ultimately, like I said, I love the ultimate freedom and the happiness that, I can earn by myself through my virtual assistant. So.
Well, it's been a pleasure to have you. Thank you for all that you've done for us, for our company, and for all the entrepreneurs that are working for you. And I'm looking forward to a long-term relationship with you and our virtual assistants.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me on the podcast. I really enjoyed this. And thank you for appreciating the VA, the mindset training. And I look forward to help you scale your business even more, right? Because you have a special skill set and many more people need you. And we wanted to get you focused so that you can do what you're really good at. And which is something that the VA cannot do for you, So thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And that was it for today. You can actually connect with Phyllis Song through her website, PhyllisSong.com. She is a wonderful asset for our companies, and I believe that she can be also an asset for your companies as well. If you want to learn more about this and other topics about how you learn about entrepreneurship through our Maxallure Mastermind, visit our website, maxallure.com, Maxallure. I hope that you learn a lot today. Please share the wealth, share the happiness, share these episodes with your friends and family, and subscribe, give us 5 stars, and I'll see you later. Thank you. Bye.
Please remember that Design is not providing specific financial, medical, or career advice. Our only intent is to stimulate your appetite for growth by sharing our experience and those of our speakers, coaches, and guests. Your personal growth and success will be unique to your circumstances and your hard work. We sincerely hope you enjoyed the show and look forward to seeing you next week.